It's almost time for my next birthday, which means it is time for a birthday party introduction video, and for that I require a costume. I've done Wraith, I've had a Jester, Mage's robe, all sorts of stuff, all made by hand. This year I'll be making some Japanese clothing. I'll be making a Hipari and a Hakama out of cloth. The two patterns that I'll be using are linked down in the description of the video, and all my measurements are digitally held. Let's get to the table. I have here 5 meters of really nice green fabric. I wasn't originally going to use green because my green screen is green. However, I have a blue screen, so I can do green just fine. It's got this really nice texture to it. It just makes it feel a bit more rough and homespun rather than being a modern pure fabric. And this is what is going to form, well, all of it actually. I was considering having some sort of contrast trim in there, maybe a grey and orange. I think this just being purely this nice green texture, it's going to look great. Yeah, that's right, my elbows do that. Isn't that great? Oh yeah, you like that. The patterns that I'm using are extremely straightforward. Just a whole bunch of rectangles stitched together, which apparently is how it would have been done, because their looms are only about 18 inches wide, which isn't very wide. Considering my fabric is 1.5 meters wide, that's 60 inches if you're in some sort of weird crazy place that uses inches rather than centimeters. They do exist somewhere in the world. That's just the dog, don't worry. So, I've got my Hakama guide and my Hipari guide, both of which are linked in the description below. Great job, feel free to use the resources. No sponsor, no sponsorship, there's no money involved, unless you want to. I've been through the instructions and extracted all of the various sizes and what have you are required. For example, with the Hakama, you need to make several panels of certain sizes, and with the Hipari, again, you've got to make a few panels of certain sizes, and I've got this all in a nice Excel spreadsheet. And finally, I went through and laid out my 5 meters of fabric to ensure that I'm getting as much out of my cloth as I can. Everything fits perfectly onto this 5 meter rectangle with a little bit of spare. As it is the simpler of the two garments, I'm going to begin with the Hipari. After that, I'll work on the Hakama. But, hey, this is a playlist that'll be coming out one after the other, and that won't affect you at all. If you watch this very far into the future, you can skip ahead if you just want to see how the Hakama is made. But the first step in either case is to start measuring and cutting fabric. The first step of the Hipari is to measure out 4 panels of 34 inches by 12 inches. These are all my sizes with a 1/2 inch seam added on. You'll obviously have to measure yourself and come up with your own numbers. This is where I'm going to make my first change to how it's done in their pattern. Because they don't want to waste any fabric, what they have you do is they have you cut the neck triangle out of the fabric and then stitch it back on further down. Now I have plenty of spare fabric, so I'm just going to make it as a single piece. To work this out, you take half of your neckline, minus the seam of course, which in this case will be 4 inches. Mark that out there. Find your halfway point, which in this case will be 16 inches, which is here. Then down the other end, you want to measure the opposite 4 inches out, which will be here. And then, to get your neck triangle, simply connect the lines. Easy peasy. It's important to note that with this method, you might think that you can just cut out a second panel and just use the two opposite sides. If your fabric is double-sided, that's fine. However, this fabric has a side to it, which means that if I were to cut out a second panel using this triangle, I would have 2 of the same piece. So there will be some wasted fabric, and there's a little bit of triangle here in the middle, but as I say, plenty of spare.